Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, good people? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and I want to thank you for joining me on this Triumph Tuesday. Yes, it is Tuesday. Man, I hope you took the weekend and yesterday just to relax, recoup, and just to revive yourself, because I know you have something great in the works. You are working on something that's changing your life, not just today, but in the future, and not just changing your life, but it's changing other people's life. And that's why today we are talking about discernment is a security system. Yes, it is. It is. So this week, our theme is, if it's not protected, you don't own it. And yesterday we talked about protect your access point. We discussed boundaries, emotional exposure, access management, protecting peace, and protecting the brand. But today, we move into another layer of security, of the security system. Today, we are talking about discernment is a security system. Because protecting access points means nothing if you cannot recognize the threats before they infiltrate the system. And family, hear me clearly. This is not paranoia. This is wisdom. This is awareness. This is stewardship. This is spiritual maturity. Let's look at Proverbs 3, verse 21 and 23. It said, "My son, let not them depart from thy eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. So shall they be life unto thy soul and grace to thy neck. Then shalt thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot should not stumble." See, notice wisdom and discretion create safety. Today, we are talking about discernment, warning signs, manipulation, emotional malware, pattern recognition, hidden motives, and operational wisdom and spiritual awareness. Because everything harmful does not arrive looking harmful. And God, through his son Jesus Christ, always revealed the bad files. This is a very important conversation for leaders, parents, entrepreneurs, visionaries, builders, ministry leaders, everyday people trying to protect their peace and purpose. This is a very important conversation for every single person out here. Because some of the greatest disruptions in life could have been avoided if warning signs were not ignored. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wayvve Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Triumph Tuesday, and we are talking about discernment is a security system. See, discernment is not paranoia. Discernment and paranoia are not the same thing. See, paranoia operates from fear. Discernment operates from wisdom. Paranoia makes people defensive, unstable, and emotionally reactive. Discernment makes people calm, observant, strategic, emotionally intelligent, and spiritually aware. See, mature people are not constantly looking for enemies, but they are aware enough to recognize patterns before damage becomes visible. And one of the greatest leadership skills a person can develop is the ability to recognize dysfunction early. Because mature leadership is not only about building, it is also about recognizing what should not gain access to the system. Discernment identifies danger before damage becomes visible. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wayvve Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Triumph Tuesday, and we are talking about discernment as a security system. See, everything harmful does not arrive looking harmful. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They think danger always looks dangerous. But some of the most destructive things enter life disguised as support, validation, opportunity, comfort, emotional attachment, fast success, and easy access. See, manipulation rarely introduces itself honestly. That's why discernment matters. Because some opportunities are actually distractions wearing professional clothing. Some relationships are emotional malware packaged attractively. And many people ignore warning signs because the packaging looks appealing emotionally. And sometimes the things disrupting your peace first enter your life, making you feel understood, seen, valued, and emotionally safe. That is why emotional intelligence and spiritual discernment must work together. See, everything harmful does not arrive looking harmful. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wayvve Radio.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Triumph Tuesday. Let's talk about the body detects danger before the mind explains it. See, God designed the human nervous system with warning mechanisms. That's uneasy feelings. That's internal tensions. That's heaviness after certain conversation. That is internal telemetry. And many times the body detects danger before the conscious mind fully explains it. But people override discernment constantly. Why? Because truth creates friction. And sometimes people would rather preserve emotional comfort than confront the uncomfortable reality. That becomes dangerous because ignored warning signs become repeated cycles. The body often recognizes inconsistencies before the mind creates languages for them. That's why people should stop ignoring internal warning systems just because something looks good externally. People often ignore discernment to preserve comfort. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wayvve Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. People, get out your feelings. Get out your feelings. Let's talk about emotional malware. Corrupts systems slowly. Yes, emotional feelings. See, malware rarely destroys a system immediately. It infiltrates quietly. It spreads slowly. It normalizes corruption gradually. The same thing happens emotionally and spiritually. See, toxic environments rarely destroy people instantly. Compromise usually happens progressively. See, one tolerated behavior, one ignored red flag, one unhealthy pattern at a time, until eventually dysfunction start feeling normal. That's emotional malware. And many people are trying to manage environments they should have quarantined early. See, some people keep exposing themselves to the very same thing that's draining them. That's draining their strength because the damage feels familiar now. That's dangerous because familiar dysfunction is still dysfunction. You cannot manage emotional malware. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wayvve Radio.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Triumph Tuesday, and we are talking about discernment is a security system. I know you hear the word discernment in church a lot. You hear Christians talking about discernment, but everybody should have discernment. You should have discernment. Yes. But let's talk about most manipulation arrive through emotional access. See, most manipulation does not begin aggressively. It begins relationally through flattery, through validation, through emotional dependency, through urgency, through attention, and through false alignment. See, some people study your emotions. Yes, some people study your emotional needs before attempting access. That's why discernment matters, because manipulation often arrives disguised as support. And mature people stop evaluating relationships only by words. I'm gonna say that again. And mature people stop evaluating relationships only by words. They evaluate it by consistency. They evaluate the relationship by its fruit. They evaluate the relationships by its patterns, by its emotional impact, and by the integrity of the person. See, a person's words may sound healthy while their behavior patterns reveal corruption slowly over time. That's why wisdom studies consistency, not performance. See, most breaches happen through trusted access. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wayvve Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on Wayvve Radio. Make sure you tell a family member, tell a friend, tell somebody about Wayvve. Let them know we are here. We play music that's inspired by the love of God. We play artists who love God, who write music so that they can disciple, use it for ministry. So tell someone about Wayvve Radio and tell someone about the Afternoon Praise. Let them know my show, we're not preaching. We are building. We are building brands. We are doing kingdom building. And this is for any and everybody, all right? But let's stop this. Let's stop normalizing red flags. See, one of the most dangerous things people do is normalize repeated anomalies. See, a repeated red flag is not a coincidence. It's a pattern. And mature people understand patterns reveal systems. See, some people keep explaining dysfunction, excusing manipulation, minimizing unhealthy behavior, overriding convictions until the breach becomes visible publicly. See, discernment requires honesty, not emotional negotiation. Some people become emotionally attached to potential while ignoring dangerous patterns, repeatedly showing themselves in reality. See, that attachment eventually becomes costly. Ignored red flags become repeated cycles. Pay attention to them, people. Pay attention and don't let them go. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wayvve Radio.
Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Triumph Tuesday. We are talking about discernment as a security system. See, discernment protects leadership capacity. See, discernment is not only spiritual, it is operational. Because unhealthy environments drains. It drains your focus. It drains your clarity. It drains your energy. It drains your leadership capacity and your emotional stability. And some leaders are exhausted not because of overload or workload, but because of constant emotional exposure. See, too many draining conversations, too many compromised alignments, too many unauthorized process running emotionally. Discernment protects operational strength. And many people never realize how much energy they lose entertaining environments they should have exited earlier. See, protecting your capacity is not selfish, it's stewardship. And unprotected environments eventually corrupt healthy systems. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. And you remember yesterday we talked about Samson. Samson ignored active threats. See, Samson's problem was not strength. His problem was discernment failure. See, Delilah repeatedly revealed her intentions repeatedly. And yet, Samson stayed emotionally connected to an environment actively attempting to weaken him. That's dangerous. How many of y'all are Samson right now? So let's look at Judges 16, verse 15 to 17. It said, and he said unto him, how can thou say, I love thee, when thy heart is not with me? Samson normalized the anomaly. He ignored active telemetry. He eventually compromised eventually compromise became collapse. Many people lose strength gradually because they ignore repeated warnings. And sometimes people become so emotionally attached to a person, an environment, or habit that they start negotiating with what God already exposed. That negotiation weakens discernment. See, emotional attachment can override operational wisdom. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Triumph Tuesday, and we are talking about discernment. Yes, discernment is a security system. See, Jesus demonstrated perfect discernment. Look at John 2, verse 24-25. It said, but Jesus did not cometh himself unto them, for he knew what was in man. See, that's powerful. And I didn't read all the verse together, but that is powerful. Just that. Let me read that again. It said, but Jesus did not cometh himself unto them, for he knew what was in man. Jesus loved people completely, but he distributed access wisely. That is maturity. He understood love does not require unrestricted access. And many people confuse kindness and empathy, support and compassion with the removal of boundaries. See, Jesus scanned motives. Jesus evaluated integrity. Jesus maintained operational wisdom. And mature people must learn the difference between loving people and giving people unrestricted access to their internal environment. Those are not the same thing. Love people without surrendering discernment. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You just tuned in to the Afternoon Praise, and if you miss any part of this show, you can go back to my YouTube channel and listen to the show entirely and other shows that you missed. Today's show, we are talking about discernment as a security system. See, discernment is pattern recognition. Discernment is often pattern recognition at a high level. Mature people study consistency, behavior, emotional patterns, repeated outcomes, cycles, because patterns reveal future trajectory. And many people miss danger because they evaluate isolated moments instead of recurrent behavior. See, strong discernment recognizes trajectory early, before damage becomes expensive emotionally. Wise people do not ignore repeated behavior simply because excuse me. See, wise people do not ignore repeated behavior simply because isolated moments feel positive emotionally. Patterns eventually reveals the direction something is moving towards. Patterns reveal systems. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. And forgive me, y'all. During allergy season, I have a lot of drainage. So you might hear me doing a lot of swallowing and, I sound different. Clear my throat. So please forgive me, but this is allergy season. But you know what? This shall pass. God is going to heal this. He's going to take this out of my system. I really, truly believe that. But let's talk about God reveals the bad files. See, one of the greatest blessings God gives through Jesus Christ is discernment, y'all. Because God reveals hidden motives, false alignment, manipulation, corrupted opportunities, toxic environments before collapse fully manifests. See, the problem is many people ignore notifications, and often discernment whisper quietly before consequences begin speaking loudly. Yes, that's why spiritual maturity requires attentiveness. Sometimes God exposes something early not to hurt you, but to protect your future from unnecessary damage. See, discernment is protection, not punishment. God, through his son, Jesus Christ, reveals bad files. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Triumph Tuesday, and we are talking about discernment is a security system. See, not every open door is a good opportunity. I've learned that the hard way. So I'm going to let you know, and you probably learned that the hard way too, but you're probably still going through these doors. So I'm going to say that again. Not every open door is a good opportunity. See, this is important. Not every door came from God. Some doors are distractions. Some doors are traps. Some doors are breaches disguised as opportunities. That's why mature people stop chasing access blindly. Everything that is open quickly is not automatically healthy. Some opportunities cost you peace. It costs you integrity. It costs you your focus. It costs you your discipline. And it costs you emotional stability. See, discernment asks, what is this costing my system? Because every opportunity carries a cost, people. Every opportunity carries an environment. Every opportunity carries an influence. And every opportunity carries an emotional impact. And wise people evaluate the full weight of what they are accepting. See, some opportunities are expensive spiritually. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Wayvve Radio. Yes, and we are talking about discernment as a security system. I hope that you are enjoying the information, the shows, because again, I'm just having a blast that God is using me, because as I'm teaching you, I'm learning. He poured into me. So I thank God for trusting me to teach you all, to give me this lesson, to give me these things, because again, they're changing my life before I come in to change your life. But let's talk about protect your internal environment. See, your internal environment matters. Your thoughts matter. Your peace matters. Your focus matters. See, your spiritual condition matters, because eventually your internal environment becomes your eternal reality. And many people are trying to build great lives with corrupted internal systems. That never lasts long term, people. Strong people protect their mind, their peace, their emotional conditions, their spiritual alignment, like valuable infrastructure. Because once internal corruption grows long enough unchecked, listen to what I'm saying before I finish this. I'm gonna repeat the beginning of this sentence. Because once internal corruption grows long enough unchecked, eventually it starts affecting your behavior, your decisions, your relationships, your discipline, and your leadership. Peace is not optional. Peace is not optional, people. Peace is an operational asset. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're tuned in to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about watchmen detect threats early. Let's go to Isaiah 62 verse 6. I have set watchmen upon thy wall. The watchman's responsibility was not to panic. The responsibility was awareness, detection, observation, and vigilance. Because if the watchman waits until the enemy reaches the gate, the breach already happened. That's leadership wisdom. Mature people learn to recognize unhealthy patterns while they are still approaching the perimeter. Strong leaders monitor environment consistently because they understand prevention is less expensive than recovery. See, discernment detects threats early. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
If you're listening to the Afternoon Praise and you hear us talking about security systems and we talking about threats and all that stuff, now this is not a tech class, but I use tech scenarios for this lesson today. And the lesson is discernment is a security system. Yes. See, upgrade your security system, people. This is Triumph Tuesday. Yes, it is. And this Triumph Tuesday is about upgrading your internal security architecture. Stop overriding convictions, warning signs, discernment, and emotional awareness just to preserve temporary comfort. Secure your perimeters, people. Monitor your emotional telemetry. Evaluate repeated patterns. Protect your internal environment. Because if your internal system becomes corrupted, eventually every external area becomes affected. See, many people wait until the collapse happens before taking discernment seriously. But wisdom strengthens the system before failure occurs. Discernment protects your destiny, people. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wayvve Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and my time is up. It's been great. It's been lovely, like always. But before I go, I want to leave you with Proverbs 4:23. It said, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." Discernment is a security system. It protects your peace. It protects your focus. It protects your wisdom. It protects your emotional stability. It protects your spiritual integrity. And it protects your leadership capacity. See, this week is about protecting. It's about discernment. It's about awareness. It's about stewardship. It's about operational wisdom. See, because if it's not protected, I'm sorry, you don't own it. Install the scanner, people. Strengthen the firewall. Protect your perimeter. Monitor your telemetry. And stop ignoring the warning signs God has already revealed. Because mature people understand not every threat announces itself loudly. Some threats arrive quietly and slowly normalize dysfunction until the system becomes compromised internally. People, protect your brand. Protect your brand. Hey, this has been the Afternoon Praise, and this was Triumph Tuesday. And again, I thank you for joining me. And if you miss any part of the show, please go back to my YouTube channel and listen to the show and listen to any other show that you missed. But I will catch you tomorrow for Build a Brand Wednesday. I am out of here. Peace.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wayvve Radio.